Have you ever felt a little out of place when you tell people you actually like being alone? That you're not lonely, just peaceful? Maybe you've even been called too quiet or antisocial. But deep down, you know that your best moments come when the world is quiet, the tea is hot, and you've got your thoughts to keep you company. Well, I'm here to tell you something surprising and maybe a little flattering. If you're over 65 and find comfort in your own company, chances are you're a whole lot smarter than most folks think. Now, that may sound like a big claim, but hang in there with me. What we're going to talk about today might just shift the way you see your quiet moments and help you understand why you've always felt a little different in a crowd. You see, the older we get, the more we realize how valuable our time and energy really are. And the people who choose solitude over small talk, they might just be tapping into a kind of wisdom most folks overlook. Let's be real, there's a huge difference between being lonely and enjoying solitude. Loneliness feels empty. Solitude feels full. Loneliness aches. Solitude, it soothes. If you've reached a stage in your life where you find more joy in a slow morning walk, a good book, or sitting quietly with a cup of tea rather than attending noisy get-togethers or making endless small talk, you're not withdrawing. You're evolving. You're leaning into the part of life where meaning matters more than noise. Some people call it being an introvert. Others say it's just being tired of the drama. But science, interestingly enough, points to something even more fascinating. People who enjoy being alone, especially as they age, often score higher on measures of intelligence and creativity. Why? Because they've learned the value of reflection. They're not chasing validation, they're seeking understanding. And here's the kicker. The desire for solitude isn't about being antisocial, it's about being selective. At this stage of life, you've seen enough, heard enough, and lived enough to know that not every conversation is worth your time. You've figured out that peace is more precious than popularity, and that, my friend, is a sign of deep inner wisdom. You might be wondering, okay, but how does this actually connect to being smarter? Well, let's look at what research tells us. Studies have found that highly intelligent people often prefer environments where they can focus, think, and process without distraction. They're less likely to crave constant stimulation because their minds are already so active. Sound familiar? You may not have a PhD or a room full of certificates, but if you've spent years finding joy in your own thoughts, if you can sit in silence without feeling restless, then you've already tapped into something powerful. Think about how many people are uncomfortable with silence. The TV is always on, the phone is always buzzing. They need constant company or chatter to feel okay. But not you. You've built a kind of inner home, a mental space where you're free to think, dream, wonder, and remember. That's not just emotional strength, that's cognitive strength. You see, solitude gives your brain room to breathe. It gives your memory space to recall beautiful things. It helps you sort out old emotions, process difficult experiences, and even generate new ideas. It sharpens your intuition because when you're not constantly reacting to others, you can finally hear your own voice. And let's talk about something else that often comes with solitude: creativity. Some of the most brilliant ideas in history were born in quiet moments. Einstein had his best breakthroughs while daydreaming. Beethoven needed silence to hear music in his mind. You don't have to be a famous genius to experience this. Maybe you write poetry. Maybe you hum little songs to yourself. Maybe you fix things around the house or come up with clever solutions to problems no one else notices. That's not just keeping busy. That's a creative mind at work. Here's another thing that sets you apart: emotional intelligence. As we age, we begin to understand our emotions more deeply. We don't get riled up as easily. We spot nonsense from a mile away. People who enjoy solitude often have a strong sense of self. They know who they are and what they need. They don't mold themselves to please the crowd. And that emotional clarity, that's pure gold in a world that's constantly trying to pull us in every direction. If you're nodding along right now thinking, wow, this sounds a lot like me, then good, because you deserve to know that your way of being, your calm, reflective, peaceful way, is not only valid, it's brilliant. Now let me tell you about someone I know. His name's Arun. He's 72, lives in a small town, and is the kind of guy who prefers gardening over gossip. Every morning, he walks out to his little patch of earth, prunes his hibiscus plants, and watches the sunrise with a quiet smile. Folks used to say, "Aaron's too quiet. He doesn't mingle much." But what they didn't see was how deeply he thought about things. He's the guy neighbors go to when they need real advice. Why? Because when Aaron speaks, people listen. His words come from stillness, not noise. That's the power of a thoughtful mind. You might be just like Aaron. You might be the one your family turns to for the calm voice in the storm. You might be the person who doesn't say much in a group, but when you do, people pause. And there's a reason for that. You've been listening, observing, learning. You're not just older, you're wiser. And wisdom is a kind of intelligence the world doesn't always talk about, but desperately needs. It's the kind of intelligence that doesn't show up in a test score or a flashy title. It shows up in patience, in grace, in the ability to sit with your thoughts without needing to fill every silence with sound. So the next time someone gives you that "why are you so quiet" look, or wonders why you're not out and about more often, smile to yourself, because now you know. Solitude isn't a sign of loneliness. It's a sign of a well-developed mind, a peaceful heart, a strong soul. Now, if you've ever noticed that you recharge best when you're by yourself, you're not just being quiet, you're actually tuning into a powerful part of yourself that a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to understand. See, what's interesting is that many folks are afraid of being alone, but you've made peace with it. In fact, you prefer it. And that says something very important about the way your mind works. When we're younger, we're encouraged to be social, outgoing, to have big circles of friends, to be in the mix. But as we get older, we start to notice something. We don't need a crowd to feel complete. We start to notice who brings us energy and who drains it. And sometimes it turns out the most peaceful, energizing company we can keep is ourselves. People who enjoy solitude are often better at problem solving. Why? Because they give themselves space to think. When you're not constantly bouncing your thoughts off others, you begin to understand your own patterns better. You don't just react, you respond. You don't just go with the flow, you notice the current and decide if it's worth jumping in. Let's take another example. Maybe you've caught yourself reflecting more these days on memories, choices, things that made you happy, and maybe even a few regrets. That reflection isn't wasted time. It's mental clarity in action. You're sorting through life's clutter, finding meaning, and carrying forward only what matters. That's not just emotional, it's intellectual. It's maturity of the mind. A lot of people underestimate the elderly. They think aging means slowing down, when in truth, it often means sharpening up. You've lived through love and loss, failure and triumph, laughter and heartache, and all of that has given you something no textbook ever could. Real lived wisdom. And when you're alone, that wisdom isn't just buried beneath chatter, it rises to the surface. And then there's the freedom. Oh, the sweet, quiet freedom that comes with not needing to explain yourself all the time. You don't have to answer to the trends of the world. You don't have to chase anyone's approval. You don't have to attend every family gathering if your body says rest. You've earned the right to set your own pace. And that kind of self-awareness is a clear mark of intelligence. Not everyone has it, but you do. Now let's talk about something people rarely connect with intelligence, intuition. But it's a real thing. A sharp gut feeling. A quiet voice that warns you, guides you, reassures you. And here's the deal. The more time you spend alone, the stronger that intuition becomes. Why? Because you're not silencing it with everyone else's noise. You're listening to your own rhythm, your own knowing. In fact, solitude doesn't just give you space to think, it gives your heart space to feel. And that emotional depth, that's a gift. It means when you speak from a place of reflection, not reaction. You're not just throwing words into the wind. You're sharing something real, something meaningful. That kind of communication touches people more than noise ever could. So if you find yourself preferring the stillness of your own company over the chatter of crowded rooms, don't second guess it. You're not pulling away from life. You're tuning into it in a deeper way than most ever will. And that, my friend, is nothing short of genius. Now let's talk about something most people overlook, the power of observation. If you're someone who enjoys your own company, you've probably noticed that you see things others miss. While the world rushes by, caught up in schedules, distractions, and noise, you might be sitting on your porch with a cup of tea, watching the way the light changes through the trees. And in that quiet moment, you notice the details, the way a bird hops instead of flies, the way your neighbor's laughter carries through the air, the faint sound of the wind playing with the leaves. That, right there, is a sign of a mind that isn't just alive, it's aware. You see, solitude doesn't shrink your world, it sharpens it, and it allows you to engage with life in a more meaningful way. You're not just existing, you're experiencing. That level of attentiveness is rare. It's what poets write about, what painters try to capture, and what many people are too busy to notice. But you're living it every day. There's also something quietly revolutionary about being content with yourself. The world spends a lot of energy trying to convince us that we need more friends, more noise, more validation. But when you enjoy solitude, you flip that idea on its head. You say, I am enough. And that's no small thing. It takes a mature, confident, and wise soul to find peace in their own presence. You're not hiding from the world. You're just not letting it define your worth. You might have heard people say things like, aren't you lonely? Or don't you miss being around others all the time? But here's the truth. They're projecting their own discomfort with silence. Most people don't know how to be alone without feeling lonely. But you've mastered the art of your own company. And that's a sign of emotional intelligence that's as valuable as any academic degree. In fact, it's something even the best universities don't teach, how to be still and whole without the need for constant company. Now let's get a little practical here. The beauty of liking your own company, especially after 65, is that you start reclaiming time for what truly matters. No more wasting energy on shallow small talk or obligations that don't serve your heart. Instead, you start gardening again. You pick up that brush you put down 30 years ago. You write those thoughts you never had time to sort through. You rediscover passions, not for anyone else's approval, but for the joy they bring to you. And here's the twist. When you begin living that way, people start noticing. They're drawn to your calm, your clarity, your sense of self. They may not understand it at first, but they'll feel it. There's a magnetism in quiet confidence, and that's exactly what you embody when you embrace your independence. You become the person who doesn't just follow the crowd, but leads by example, softly but powerfully. And yes, let's talk about creativity for a moment. It's a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it in solitude. Think about all the great thinkers, artists, and inventors. Einstein, Newton, Georgia O'Keeffe. They all cherished their alone time. That's when the sparks flew, not when they were surrounded by people. Because when the noise fades, your imagination wakes up. Ideas grow best in silence, like seeds taking root underground before they bloom into something beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you that your quiet moments are wasted. They're not. They're where breakthroughs happen, big or small. Whether it's figuring out how to repair something around the house in a clever new way, or coming up with the perfect line for a story you're writing for your grandchild, that's intelligence in action. Not the loud, flashy kind, but the steady, meaningful kind that endures. You may even find that your connection to nature deepens. Without the distractions of constant social demands, you start hearing the world in ways others have forgotten. The rhythm of your breath, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the feeling of your bare feet on grass. These are not minor things, they're the fabric of life, and recognizing their beauty isn't being sentimental, it's being wise. Now, I know this might go against everything we've been told about aging. There's this outdated idea that as we get older, we're supposed to become more social to stay young at heart. But let's be real, socializing just for the sake of it isn't fulfilling. If it drains you more than it fills you, it's not medicine, it's noise. And that's where your genius shines through, because you've learned to listen to yourself. You've figured out what energizes you, what makes you feel alive, and you're not afraid to choose that, even if it means saying no to what others expect. This kind of clarity comes with age, and with it comes freedom. You start shedding the layers of pressure and performance you wore in your younger years. You stop chasing approval and start following peace. And that, my friend, is the beginning of a very powerful second act. Not the kind written by society, but one that's authored by you. There's a strength in your solitude. It's not about withdrawing from the world. It's about engaging with it more purposefully. And when you do choose to spend time with others, it's from a place of joy, not obligation. That makes your presence more meaningful, your words more impactful, and your relationships more authentic. You've learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being in good company, your own. And when you know how to enjoy your own company, you never feel like you're missing anything. You carry your peace with you, wherever you go, like a quiet garden in your heart, always blooming. You know, there's something deeply comforting about arriving at this stage of life and realizing you don't need to fill every silence, that you've earned the right to just be, not perform, not explain, not impress, just exist in the truth of who you are. And when you've lived through decades of ups and downs, love and loss, mistakes and milestones, that peace you feel in solitude isn't accidental. It's wisdom. It's hard-won clarity. Because let's be honest, life hasn't always been kind. You've seen people come and go. You've faced moments that shook you. And through it all, you've kept going. That quiet resilience? That's genius. Not the kind they write headlines about, but the kind that builds empires of inner strength. The kind that whispers, "I've been through worse. I can handle this." And that's more valuable than all the noisy opinions in the world. In a world obsessed with constant connection, your calm detachment is a rare treasure. While others scroll endlessly, chasing distraction, you choose presence. While others talk to fill silence, you listen. While the world runs, you walk. And in doing so, you notice the petals falling, the clouds drifting, the small, everyday miracles everyone else rushes past. That isn't laziness. That isn't disinterest. That's genius. That's life lived deeply, not loudly. And let's not forget, your solitude doesn't mean you've given up on people. Quite the opposite. It means you understand them better. It means you've learned that real connection doesn't need constant chatter or crowds. Sometimes it's just a phone call from an old friend, a shared laugh with a neighbor, a deep conversation with someone who truly sees you. Quality, not quantity. That's the brilliance of maturity. You stop settling for noise and start seeking meaning. There's beauty in becoming your own best friend, in filling your own cup instead of waiting for others to pour into it, in finding peace in your thoughts and maybe even joy in your own little routines, your morning tea, your favorite chair by the window, the way you talk to the plants like they're old pals. These aren't quirks. These are rituals, and they speak of a soul that knows how to nurture itself. And if you're the kind of person who finds inspiration in solitude, who reads, writes, paints, builds, fixes, or just thinks in beautiful directions, don't let the world convince you that you're wasting time. That's your sacred space. That's where you connect to something bigger. Call it creativity, call it spirit, call it peace. The name doesn't matter. The feeling does. And you found a way to tap into it that many people spend their whole lives chasing. You're not behind. You're not missing out. You're in exactly the right place, choosing presence over pressure, depth over distraction, clarity over chaos. And that's not only rare, it's revolutionary. You're not just aging, you're evolving, growing wiser, quieter, stronger, like an old tree that doesn't need to bloom to be magnificent. You've already done the blooming. Now you just are. Rooted, resilient, still reaching for the sun in your own time, your own way. So if you've ever doubted yourself for preferring solitude, stop. You're not weird. You're not antisocial. You're not disconnected. You're attuned. You're someone who sees the value in reflection, who understands that life isn't a race to be seen, but a journey to be felt. And you, my friend, are feeling it with your whole soul. Maybe you're the one who sits quietly at family gatherings, watching the grandkids play, your eyes soft with memory. Or maybe you're the one who strolls through the park alone, nodding at the familiar trees like they're old friends. Maybe you love your books more than dinner parties. Maybe you've stopped explaining yourself. That's not withdrawal, that's wisdom. That's what happens when you finally feel comfortable in your own skin. Because genius isn't always about IQ. It's about insight, about emotional depth, about understanding yourself so well that you no longer crave the noise. It's about seeing through the chaos and finding stillness inside. It's about valuing peace over popularity. And if you found that, If you've built that kind of sanctuary within yourself, then yes, you are a genius. You may not win awards for it. You may not have 1,000 followers applauding every thought, but you have something far better. You have you, and that's enough. So the next time someone says, "You like being alone a little too much," smile gently and know the truth. They haven't caught up yet. They haven't learned what you already know. That solitude isn't empty. It's full of the best parts of life. You've earned this peace, and it's not selfish to protect it. In fact, it might just be the most intelligent thing you've ever done. Thank you for being here and spending your time with me today. If this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share a little piece of your own journey, because you never know who needs to hear it. And if you found comfort, wisdom, or even just a smile in this video, please like and subscribe to Elder Circle. This channel is your space, a gentle corner of the internet where your voice, your heart, and your experience matter. Here's to living your truth, loving your peace, and never apologizing for the brilliance of your quiet strength. Stay well, stay wise, and remember, you're not alone in loving your solitude. You're simply ahead of your time. Don't forget to subscribe to keep the circle growing.